Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mining Conversation with MsTedy podcast. And this podcast is a podcast that focuses on the mining industry in South Africa. Today we are joined by Thabo Mashongoane, CEO of the Mining Qualification Authority, and we are going to be looking into the careers in the mining industry. Before I start the interview, please remember to subscribe, like, share, and follow. And also remember that this podcast is proudly sponsored by MENA. I'd like to welcome you to this episode of the Mining Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just to start, kindly tell us about the Mining Qualification Authority. What does it do?
Thank you very much, and thanks for the question. Mining Qualifications Authority, in short MQA, is one of the 21 sitters in South Africa.
Okay.
It's been established a year earlier than the establishment of the rest of other sitters. The reason being it was established under a different act, which is Mine Health Safety Act. And the rest of other sitters were then later established under Skills Development Act.
Okay.
We have subsequently, almost 3-4 years ago, been also recognized as a sitter under Skills Development Act. And the purpose of all sitters, in particular MQA, is to capacitate the workforce of South Africa with the necessary skills for each particular sector. So in our case, we are responsible for the mining and mineral sector skills development.
Okay.
To ensure that we churn out, competent and skilled workforce to this sector, whether of the current workforce as well as the new entrants into the sector.
And how does the MQA ensure that the qualifications that you guys are giving out do meet the requirements that are needed by the mining industry?
How the framework of developing skills program in South Africa is very interesting,
Okay.
particularly for sitters. What we do is we develop what we call sector skills plan. Now, this sector skills plan, in our case, is for the mines. Each employer, levy-paying and those who are not levy-paying employers, on annual basis, they're supposed to be giving us what we call work skills plans, as well as annual training plans for their own companies. Now, out of that, we then glean through what has been submitted and begin to pick up the shortages of particular skills and careers in the mines. And once that has been collated as well as well-researched, of course, we will, of course, link it up with other secondary, data, whether coming from Department of Mineral Resources, as well as elsewhere. We then determine the skills required in that particular sector. That is on the basis of the demand.
Okay. So we had guests last week and we were talking particularly about the tech side of mining. And it was also noted by the Mineral Council that technical skills are scarce in the mining industry. And then the guests that I had, when I raised that up, they said they feel that the people who are qualified under the technical side, they are there. But the problem becomes when they now go to work or applying for employment.
Yep.
Then you find Guti, they do not have the right experience.
Yep.
They lack in the experience side. So can you just take us through on how then the Mining Qualification Authority enables such students who are from varsity and ensure that they do have that experience, at least when they are applying for jobs?
It is for that particular reason that the sitters were established.
Okay.
To become intermediaries between the supply side and the demand side. That is the institutions of learning as well as the workplaces. We are intermediaries. We become a bridge and also facilitate a process of employability, ensuring that the supply side, once they have graduated, whether from TVET or elsewhere, or even university, we are aware that they, of course, will need some kind of experience. Hence the creation of what you call internships.
Okay.
The purpose of internship is to then afford, we're paying for such. We say we want you to place this new entrance into the labor market for experience purposes. So internships are created for that purpose. And it is for that reason that most of the employers would then prefer students who have gone through internship, if they are to recruit.
Okay.
The second part of intervention, if not internship, is what we call learnerships. Now, learnership is you are training whilst you are working. So in other words, you are not going to be afraid see the workplace, the workshop floor for the first time. You are used to, you already accumulate other skills that you may not necessarily be taught at varsity or at college. Indeed, there are plenty of technical skills. The question is, how then do we make them work ready? Secondly, there's a question of soft skills.
Yeah.
The reason why employers would not want to take somebody who's not experienced because the person may be lacking some soft skills, which are quite critical to a work environment, how you communicate, issues of critical thinking, and number of other array of soft skills that one has to have. So we as SETAs, we provide that platform for learners then to migrate from being from the supply side to the demand side.
And can you also kindly share with us other skills that are still scarce in the mining industry where they are needed and people just do not have those right skills?
Yeah, like I've said, communication skill is one important skill, particularly in the mining space. You know that in the olden days we had mines, even now,
Yeah.
Although it's outlawed, Fadaga law. It was a way of the mines realizing the need for people coming from different backgrounds, ethnic background, and in those days, of course, coming from the neighboring states. So they will not be able to work together in teams if they are not able to communicate, hence the creation of that. So that emphasizes the need of communication skills. There has been a move away from Fanagalo, but the emphasis of teams understanding one another, each other, when they are in those dark spaces, underground, is very important.
Yeah.
There's also a need of critical thinking, like I've said. But there's been a move also to digital skills lately, because we are now migrating for IR, even in the mining space, of course, there is that element. We're moving into automation, mechatronics. So these are other variety of technical as well as soft skills that are required in the mining space.
Okay. And then another thing that was brought up by the guest was also when it comes to the softwares that are available in the technical space, saying that companies or technical companies will have a certain software, but you find that university students do not know how to work that software. So how does then MQA bridge that gap in working with organization in making sure that even the softwares university students do have access to them so that they get ready for work?
Like I said earlier on, the issue of software systems, it's industry specific. But for as long as you have basics of software or digital skills, it will then be easy. There are certain competencies that you must have, basic competencies, computer-related competencies. And once we have that, an issue of software, it will be a question of you being inducted into that. Now, once you are in internship or learnership, you, of course, have access to that. That's why even when people are doing internship, we also say, what other additional soft skills or skills that you may require for you to excel, we are still able also to then provide additional short courses for learners who are still on internship or even learnership or even artisanship, for them to then acquire such skills. So this is how we try to mitigate. We're working very closely with industry as well as universities. Right now, I have already since last year engaged more than 12 vice chancellors around the country to try and make them aware of the plight of our students, particularly in the mining space, to say what the needs are. And I also wanted to understand the challenges from their side, systematic challenges, and also make them aware for a challenge to say, how can we meet each other halfway so as we are able then to produce a work-ready kind of a student. Likewise, I've also been meeting, of course, in the mining space with various professional bodies and various employers to say, what are your needs and how can we make a transition of learners from university, from institutions, TVETs, seamless into the workplace.
Okay, and we know that also MQA also works with communities in the mining areas. So what work do you do?
Okay.
What work do you do in the mining communities?
We have divided in the MQA through the board and then in our strategic plan, as well as taking cue from National Development Plan of the country, as well as National Skills Development Plan of our line function department, which is Department for Higher Education and Training, develop some key focus areas. So what we then do is determining the best, programs for us to then intervene into the mining space. And some of those programs include the communities. Now, in the MQA, we have divided the core programs for the mine themselves, and the second part is programs where mining is taking place, those communities. But we went even further. We then said there are other places in South Africa where there's not much activities of the mines, such as Eastern Cape, typical example.
Okay.
But it is a province that sends most of the people to go and work in the mine, so we call them labor sending areas. So mine communities will include my labor sending areas.
Yeah.
Now we say, how best can we plow back? How best can we encourage mines? Mines are already doing something in terms of the social labor plans in that.
Yeah.
But we would also want to say, from the skills point of view, what skills can we impart to those communities? So we have a unit just focused on that on regional level, stakeholder relations and communication engagements, where we determine the needs of the people through the community. So what do you need? If they need for social livelihood and to revive the economic environment, if they say we want drones training for the youth, we will of course provide them with that kind of training through other training providers. If they want plant production, agriculture, we go. So we have various, but it will then depend on the needs of the community and what they need. Okay. So we then offer them training. And this training will range from 3 months even up to a year.
Yeah.
And then for young people, for adults in that mine community, for as long as they know that they are going to benefit out of the program. Yeah.
All right. And then also I just want to mention this other guest. We had David van Wyk this other time, and he was solely talking about illegal mining and the issues that we have when it comes to illegal mining. And he had mentioned that some of these illegal miners, they're actually mine workers who were in the mine, and then you find the mine got dumped by the mine owners, and then they were left stranded. But now those miners do not have a choice but to continue mine illegally because of lack of skills. And so we know as well that with the government is encouraging that the small scales mining build up and stuff like that. So your role in that, how do you then prepare or play a role in the small scale
Yeah.
mining and ensuring that miners have that skills in if they want to go into small scale mining, or they end up not
Yeah.
being left stranded basically.
Yeah. Look, one of our programs, like you rightly said,
Yeah.
it's focusing on growing and developing small-scale mining. The entrance in there, and what we have also seen is women are also included. So now start to speak women in mining. How can we capacitate? And in that regard, we are collaborating with Mintech,
Okay.
one of the public entity of Department of Mining, which of course specializes with the training, capacitation of new entrants into the mining space. So we do provide training for small-scale miners. We are quite aware of illegal mining and the challenges that are there. And then to that effect, what we also do, we have, intervention, skill development intervention. We call it ex-mine workers.
Okay.
Focusing on ex-mine workers to say, how can we capacitate them? Now, we do that through our normal program, but also through the labor unions in our space. We have about 5 labor unions in our space. Some of them have their own training centers, the Solidarity, the WASA, the NUM, AMKU, NUMSA, and so forth. Some of them have their own. So we do then provide funding to them to say, try and capacitate workers, whether even for worker-initiated education, but also do provide that. We collaborate with them to say, how can we then get access to these expand workers and then develop them? Now, there are, of course, bigger problem in South Africa, bigger than MQA, which is the Zamazamas, informal. Now, those problems are then be sorted out by the relevant department, which is the Department of Minerals and Mining, as well as, of course, national government. Now, ours is to say, when given space, how then do we come and capacitate those? We have, of course, started discussions with some of groups who call themselves, illegal miners, to say, what kinds of skills can we provide you with, so as we are able then to fend for yourself, because it's something that we cannot also ignore. Now, all of this we do in collaboration with the relevant department as well as other public entities.
All right, thank you. So now there's a person maybe who's in matric, a learner who's in matric, and they want to get into mining.
Yeah.
And then they're wondering, Guti, which course do I then do? Or how do I then choose the course and everything? How do you then advise a person who wants to get into mining but don't know what to study?
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, most of our programs are in the main. That is the core programs for mining.
Yeah.
In the main, requiring a person to have done maths and science.
Okay.
Yeah, be it at a TVET level or at a learnership level, you'll see that most are aligned to maths and science. It's one thing that a person interested in mining should then focus on, the first thing. The second one will then be contacting us, or even, of course, going to our website page, because there's a lot of information that one can really learn from, and from our web page. And we also have our toll-free lines. We have our career guidance services, where they can be counseled and provided with the necessary information for them to make a decision about their future. So there are many other routes. I mean, there are people who do not necessarily have matric, but of course also get through the TVETs and start doing other, say, middle level skills, either skills programs, and they may even go up and do occupational related programs, and some go straight to University of Technology or ordinary universities to do degree programs. So there are many other opportunities to just get into the mining space.
Thank you. All right. All right, so again, just going back to previous interviews, Mr. David van Wyk also had mentioned that currently the problem that we have in the mining industry as well is that we get the minerals and then we don't process the minerals. Then we just export the minerals and then they come back processed. And then he said that we have lost that manufacturing side of the sector. And it's actually the sector that will then help the mining industry grow, because according to him, he feels like the mining industry is dying because of the fact that we're just exporting. We get the minerals and we're exporting them. We're not doing anything about them. So I don't know, is there anything that you can speak on that or say on that?
No, look, he's quite correct. It's something that even government has, picked on long time ago to say, not only in the mining sector, generally our economy is structured in such a way that we like exporting without beneficiating. And if we don't do that, we actually not taking advantage of the value chain of a product. Because if we then get these minerals, dig them out, we now need to, of course, set up other industries to then beneficiate because it will then be manufacturing. So we are not taking advantage of that. We'll then, of course, be recipients of our own minerals as a finished products from other countries. Indeed, if it's a national problem now, and I know that the president and government have recognized that, and they, of course, will then be doing something about it in terms of beneficiating. And if that is done, well, mining is it's a sunrise kind of industry. It's been with us for a long, long time, and it actually has been the bedrock of South African economy for over years. Even as we speak now, I mean, there's about close to 500,000, or just less than 500,000 of people still working in the mines, and mostly South Africans. Previously, it was, of course, other people from outside the country. So we need to be saying, what is it that we are going to do? And there are other minerals that have been discovered which are required for 4IR.
Yeah.
The EV cars, they no longer require more of platinum, and hence our platinum mines, particularly in Rustenburg, is dying, or it has slowed down, not necessarily died, slowed down, simply because there's a change. Now, we still have some of those minerals in South Africa, which can then support this new 4IR and industrial revolution, new industrial revolution. So it's a question of innovation and creativity. Yeah.
All right, so with MQA, can you just share what plans do you have going forward in ensuring that skills development in the mining industry is met, or is skills develop the skills in the mining industry, especially the scarce one, met?
We through our strategic plans, which are informed by, earlier on I spoke of SSP, which is sector skills plan. We working closely with the mines to determine the direction that the future is taking us into through the employees, because we don't want to come up with problems that are irrelevant. That's why we are actually interacting with the mines themselves, and with the necessary houses in the mine. You have Mineral Council, which is the former Chamber of Mines. Of course, there's more than 90% of the employers in our country subscribe into Minerals Council. So we engage in closely with them. So what kind of skills or new programs do we have to then focus into? It's one way, through research. And then in our strategic plan, we then say this will then be the focus. Like I've said, we are now looking into, mines are looking into automation. They are mechanizing. They have already done that. And so we're looking into that direction of digitization, of sending even robots underground to survey the mines, unlike sending people. Should anything happen there, a person dies. But if you send a robot, I mean, you can still manufacture another. So this is the kind, and we would want to see mines being operated from the surface. This is what the employers are telling us, and sending robots, sending machine to mine. Of course, it has a setback that the unions would not like it, because it's going to that cost reduction of people on the ground. But we need to strike a balance to say, how then do we ready and train the current workforce? Some of them, of course, they are exiting the system because of age, because of many other issues. But we need to take care of them with the program that then can encourage a social livelihood, whilst we are now encouraging high-end kind of programs into the mining space of highly educated and competent people, workforce. Okay, so this is the direction that the mines and is taking. I mean, for an example, we have one of the deepest mines in the world,
Yes.
in Carltonville, the gold mines. And it's not that there's no longer gold. The question is
The gold is too deep.
And then, therefore, it is too risky to go down there. So we have to come up with ways that is informed by technology as to mine better and work better, whilst we are also securing, the workforce. So we get into that kind of programs. And we can only do so when we collaborate with the mine sector itself, when we collaborate with the institutions of learning, be it private or public, when we also have understanding of the tripartite in the space, which is organized labor, state, the employers, as well as the beneficiaries, the communities. So we really need to ensure that we sustain the economic activities of the mines.
Wonderful. And then your closing words to stakeholders, mining companies, government, learners who want to get into the mining industry, or even the ones who are in university and who feel they do not have the right skills to get ready for the work environment. What would you like to say so that whatever that you need to say to ensure that the mining industry grows and it becomes better, basically?
Yeah, I would really say to the students out there who envisage to get into the space, as well as those who are still aspire to get education in the mining space, have full understanding, background of what mining is all about. And then you need to have the relevant, ensure that we have the relevant acumen and competencies for the sector, because if you don't love the sector, you may not necessarily survive in the sector. But in South African context, I actually right now appreciate the fact that there are so many ladies, women getting into the space. And you can see, if you go to towns, ladies wearing overalls, these are engineers, these are professional people, something that is unheard of in the past. So you can clearly see that these people are highly focused. But you really also need to get there to say, we need to change the status quo. We need to have visionaries. The current students must be visionaries to say, let's take this sector forward. Let's grow it throughout its value chain, and not only be happy that we mined minerals and we're sending them away. What is that we can do? So in other words, if you're going in as a student, try and up your skills, your knowledge, by going to high-end kind of education, so as we are able then to benefit South Africa. We need more of the scientists, we need more of the innovators and the engineers that are going to think big to make this industry go, because we still have it. I mean, South Africa is well endowed and blessed with minerals. It's unparalleled. You cannot even compare it with any other. So therefore, let's take advantage of the world that God has given us as South Africans. And to the employers, we really need to invest in the up and coming mines. They have potential to do something worthwhile. So let's open up our workspaces, give them opportunity to get into our mines and work environment and explore possibilities, because they cannot really attain their highest goals if they are not given an opportunity. And for government to continue to support them through sitters like ourselves, because we get in levies, the government must then, of course, ensure that they fine-tune their policies to really support, have a long-term vision, not be short-sighted, have a long-term 30-year vision to say, this is where we want to see South Africa in the next 30 years, particularly the mining space, because we have the wealth in this country and we can take this country very far.
Wonderful. Dr. Mashongoane, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Well, that was a very wonderful interview. With that being said, I'd also like to thank my team, which is Kamu Malangabi and Chweni Sitache, and also would like to thank Mina, which is our sponsor, who made this podcast to be possible. Thank you so much. Until next time, goodbye.
Thank you.